Hi everyone, my name is Joseph. I'm a psychic medium, and on this channel I talk about spirituality, universal downloads, and entrepreneurship. I am still new to this whole YouTube thing. I swear I'll get that whole intro thing down. I haven't quite done it yet. But this video I wanted to talk about something. I want you guys to know that I don't really plan my YouTube videos. I just kind of wait and see what kind of pops in my head or see what the universe says, hey, talk about this, or what I'm led to kind of speak about. But I want to get more active with planning my videos so I be more consistent with posting. So with this video, I want to talk about trauma. But I also want to talk about trauma that we go through that we don't really take or understand it to be trauma. So therefore, that creates certain patterns in our life because we haven't necessarily dealt or understood that situation fully for what it is. And then because of that, we tend to encounter those situations in our lives again. And I'm kind of smiling right now because I realized that my camera is kind of crooked. So when I upload this video, it's going to look like it's going to kind of look, I don't know, it looks weird. So hopefully it doesn't look, I don't know, we'll see. But it looks weird. But I think it's funny, so I'm going to keep it. So when I was younger, vulnerability moment. When I was younger, I was molested by an older girl. And I didn't really see most of my life. It was not something that was ever talked about. Me and my mother, we didn't speak about it. She talked about it with other people. She spoke about it with the girl who molested me, but she never really spoke about it with me. She never really talked to me about it because I feel like for the longest time, I didn't really understand what was happening or how it would affect my life. And when I got older, I realized that I realized how that situation affected my life, and I also realized that it was a traumatic experience because of the things that I went through. Because of that I went through, I didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't know why it was happening, and then when me realizing everything and how my life, certain things that has happened in my life, without going into detail, about why I feel like certain dynamics between me and women have really just been toxic, not necessarily just on my part, but my ability to speak up when to certain females that have been in my life. So therefore they've been able to take advantage of me in many different ways, not sexually, that was only a one-time thing, but just in other ways, or I just had toxic relationships with them where it was just bad and like whatever. And because I didn't have the courage to speak up. And I realized that this was like a whole healing process for me. And I realized that in this process, I became really, really angry. And then I remembered like the events leading up to that. For instance, the girl who raped me, she was actually raped by a group of, I think, teenage boys. And so I had to go through a process of healing and also a process of forgiving. A lot of times I feel like when people go through things like this, they tend to blame themselves. And they tend to, or they don't really understand the gravity of the situation, how that's actively playing a role in our lives currently. And I feel like I see that all the time. And another situation is I was actually dating this guy, which actually he was just a series of bad choices. We didn't actually date. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh, I want to fix him. If I could just love him past his bullshit. And you can't love someone past their bullshit. You can't love someone enough to say, you know what, I'm going to choose you. And I'm mentally okay now. And I'm emotionally, it's not happening. It doesn't work. Maybe it has for some people at some point. But normally that shit does not work. But it doesn't work. So don't try it. If someone's fucked up and they need to go on their own journey and fix themselves, you let them go on their journey and you let them fix themselves. You cannot fix anybody. And I learned this the hard way. Anyway, we were in a relationship, and well, not really in a relationship, but we were just in this weird dynamic. And eventually our dynamic became very abusive. He became very abusive towards me. Honestly, it was because he was in love with me, and he was angry at the fact that he was in love with me because he was in denial about him being gay, and for a slew of other reasons, which I won't get into. And I didn't look at that situation as an abusive relationship or dynamic, whatever it was. I didn't understand it to be that. So then when I got out of it, I was like, oh shit, I was in an abusive relationship. And then, well, it wasn't always abusive. It wasn't like he was abusing me. It was just like, we fought. Like, I had to defend myself. And it didn't happen a lot, but it happened enough to where at one point I just got really, really angry. And I literally was choking him, like, leave me the fuck alone. And his mom came in and it was a whole big thing. He put a knife on me a few times. And when we go through things, when we go through things, it's not always as simple as like being present in that moment and identifying the situation to what it is. Sometimes we have to be out of the situation, we have to look back on it, we have to heal from it and understand why it happened in the first place and what we will do differently moving forward from there. Because a lot of the situations that we experience, they do affect our lives. And a lot of people don't think they do. Because like I said before in my last video, things that we experience, we turn these things into stories. So therefore, those things become a part of our life. So therefore, we kind of expect these things to continue happening in our lives. And the truth of the matter is that it doesn't need to. I tell all of my clients, I don't care who you are, I don't care how old you are, think about your life and who you are the same way you would think about building a business. The same thing you would think about building anyone. You have to build who you are. You have to but first you have to understand yourself to do so. You have to understand your experiences. You have to understand how those experiences have contributed to where you are in your life. Because not everything can be blamed on someone else. Some things can just be blamed on the experience itself and not having the ability or the understanding that I need to heal from this. I need to forgive this person, or I need to forgive myself for what I did in this situation. Sometimes it's just that. A lot of times we're hard on ourselves. We hate ourselves because of the choices we make, or we just don't like ourselves because of the things that we experience. And sometimes it's just the experience itself, or it's the other person that was a part of the experience that made you feel a certain type of way, or did something that was adverse against you. When a lot of the time it's like, let me forgive, let me heal, let me accept, forgive, heal, and then move on. And a lot of times that's not what's done. It's just, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. And then eventually I'm going to move so far from this that I'm still going to feel the pain from this. I'm still going to feel the hurt from this. I'm going to still feel everything from this. But it's going to be so embedded in my unconscious mind, and it's only going to affect me when something triggers me. So therefore, I'm not actually healed from it. And then I'm going to keep this cycle going in my life because I haven't accepted it, one. I haven't forgiven myself, any other person, and I haven't healed from it. I've just simply moved on from it. So there are steps that need to take place before you move on from a traumatic experiences. And I just said those steps. Let me tell you what those again. I'm glad you asked me. Is first, you need to accept. You need to accept. You need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive the other person. And you need to heal from the experience. Cry, scream, yell, write, do whatever you need to do to heal that. Understand that it was not your fault. If it was your fault, you need to take accountability in it. A lot of times when it comes to someone being raped, it's never the person's fault that has been raped. It's never that person's fault. It's always the other person's fault. So whatever you need to do to love yourself, you need to do it. And a lot of times I realize that a lot of the reasons why we don't forgive ourselves, a lot of reasons why we don't heal from things is because we don't love ourselves. And a lot of times that's because we feel like the things that we experience, we fucking deserve. No one deserves to go through crazy shit. Nobody. And the reason why we tend to continuously go through crazy shit is because we don't accept, heal, and forgive. And then it's also because we don't have enough self-love for ourselves. Because everyone wants someone else to love them. Everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to be in a relationship. Bitch, what about the relationship with yourself? What about you loving yourself? What about you innately loving everything about who the fuck you are, even the things that you don't like? Because guess what? At the end of the day, you have to love those things first before you can even fucking change them. So love yourself. Love yourself, love yourself, love yourself. Love yourself in the best way that you fucking can. Stand in the fucking mirror naked, look at yourself and say, goddamn, I'm sexy. Even if you don't believe it, even if you don't think it. So do that shit until you do. Take yourself out on dates. Go date yourself. Take yourself out to dinner. Go to movies. Talk to yourself. Have conversations with yourself about who you are, what you want, what your boundaries are. Where do you see yourself value? What is your self-worth? Have these type of conversations with yourself because one, that's how you get to know yourself. Because when you have these conversations with yourself, you realize like, hey, these are the things that I don't like about myself. But then you realize I don't like these things about myself because of other people. because other people didn't like these things about myself. So then it's like, well, what the fuck do I like about myself? You have to ask yourself these questions. You have to have conversations like this with yourself in order to know who the fuck you are. You know what that's called? It's called self-awareness. And that's how you gain self-awareness. And self-awareness is a fucking journey. You don't just get self-awareness and then you just stop asking yourself questions and you stop the process of self-awareness. It's something that must continuously be done in our lives to develop who we are, how we think, and more importantly, how we feel about most things that are happening in our lives. So, with that being said, it's super important to understand that who we are as people should never be contingent upon the things that we experience, and more importantly, how other people think and feel about us. Because whether you realize this or not, when you grow up, when you meet someone, you grow up and you get to know each other, whatever the case is, that person has a version of you already in their mind. You can leave that person, not see them for 5 years. When you go back to that person, if that person is not self-aware and they are not growing and doing the things they need to do in their journey, they're going to approach you from the vantage point that they knew you from. And most people in the world are going to do that. You have a choice. You can either continue to be that person or you can just grow, develop, and become a better version of yourself. And realize and know that even when people do that, that doesn't mean that that's who you are. Even if that is who you are, and you want people to stop reminding you that's who you are, get the fuck away from them. Get away from them so you can start to grow, so you can be a better version of yourself. This life is completely up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you. Your choices, your decisions, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the world, how you let other people make you feel, how you let other people treat you, the things that you allow in your life, that's all up to you, no one else. As always, comment down below, let me know what you think. Just let me know what you think. Let's start a dialogue. Let's start a conversation. Remember, I'm Joseph. I'm a psychic medium. And on this channel, I talk about everything from tarot, the universe, entrepreneurship, and of course, self-awareness.